Our father Jacob has been on the road for some time. He's left the home of his father-in-law Lavan. Traveling with him are his wives and his children, his servants, and all of his animals. He has not seen his brother Esau for more than 20 years. And he's concerned. Does my brother still harbor hatred? Does he still harbor a grudge for the fact that I took his blessing all of those decades ago? And therefore there is the possibility that there might actually be a violent confrontation with Esau. So our sages tell us that Jacob prepares in 3 ways. First of all, he sends his brother a lavish gift. A gift of animals, different types of animals, precious jewels, to try to appease him, to find favor in his eyes. The second thing that he does is he prays to God and he asks God to protect him and to make good on the promises that he made to him all of those years ago when he set out from his home to get married. And the third thing that Jacob does is he prepares for war. How does he prepare for war? He takes his family, his camp, and splits them up into 2. One going in one direction, the other going in the other direction. And he says as follows: if Esau comes and attacks the one camp, at least the other camp will survive. That's how he prepares for war. Many, many generations later, in the times of the 2 kingdoms, where there was the southern kingdom in the province of Judah and the northern kingdom of the 10 tribes, there was a very wicked king named Achav and Izebel, Ahab and Jezebel. And Jezebel went on a crusade to kill all of the prophets of God. And she was eminently successful. But working in her home, in her palace, was a righteous convert whose name was Obadiah, the prophet Obadiah. And Obadiah saw what was going on around him, and he realized that the life of all of the prophets was in jeopardy and in danger. And therefore, in the book of Kings, we read that the prophet Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them, 50 in one cave and 50 in another cave. And the Talmud questions, why did he do that? Why didn't he put all of the prophets in one cave? It would have been much easier for him because he had to provide for them after all. He in fact had to take loans to make sure that they had food for the entire time that they were in hiding. So why split them up into 2 different locations? One answer in the Talmud is that simply he couldn't find a cave big enough to fit all 100. But the other answer the Talmud gives us is that he learned this strategy, this tactic from none other than Jacob in our parasha. Just as Jacob broke his family into 2, so that if war would come to one, at least the others would be saved, Obadiah reckoned the same thing. Let's take the prophets and break them up into 2, 50 in one cave and 50 in the other cave. So that even if Ahab and Jezebel are able to find the one cave, at least the other cave full of prophets will survive. And based on this, the sages tell us something very interesting. This is not just true when it comes to war, but this is true when it comes to how we run our lives, that we should diversify. If a person has property and he wants to invest it somehow, he wants to make sure that his money should work for him, how should he do it? And the Talmud says, take the example of Jacob. Don't put all of your eggs into one basket. There's no such thing as a sure thing. People will come to you and they'll tell you this is the most fantastic investment. But you don't know what tomorrow will bring. And therefore the answer is to diversify. In fact, the Talmud says that you should break up all of your assets into 3. There should be 1/3 of it which is in property, 1/3 of it in movables, and 1/3 of it in cash. Because you're never sure exactly what tomorrow brings. So just as Jacob prepared for war, and he reckoned that if this particular camp is not successful, at least this other camp will survive, so too when it comes to running our lives. Don't put all of your eggs into one basket. Diversify, and if one investment is not successful, hopefully the other one will be. I wish you all Shabbat Shalom.